Now we're playing Silox, and Vendra already knows we're here. So, to be fair, she has psychic powers.
Understand what it's like to grow up alone. They had mothers and fathers who cared for them. All we had was
I'm getting Star Fox vibes from these talking heads.
You've been saying that kind of since Tools of Distraction, Drova.
Yeah, but it's especially true here.
So, Planet Silox is your standard metropolis, but because of the haunted sector and evacuation plan, it's left in disarray. Not in a The Last of Us kind of way where everything is overgrown vegetation and the buildings are decrepit, but just enough to give a bit of a dreary aura.
Because the power still seems to be here, you could almost think that the city was still populated.
Mostly because not too much time has passed.
So it kind of gives me Academy of Evil vibes.
The only thing that has remained functioning also is an intercom of the then president or mayor of the city. We will get more, detailed posters later. That serves just to have more comedy relief about, oh, be sure to vote me in the next election, despite everything that is happening right now. Basically.
We kind of already did that joke for Ratchet 3, but I digress.
Yeah, not to mention something slightly similar with Quark in All for One. The weird thing about it is that I think I'm gonna show it. I'm gonna, like I said, the water texture. The weird thing about it is that, as you will see, I think not too long from now, because the city is littered with those posters. For some reason, Insomniac decided to have as a joke also new iterations of the buzzing blades infused with never energy, so they're more serious. They decided to have, for comedy purpose, propaganda posters for this guy, wanted to be elected mayor and blah blah blah, to be in the style of the Hope and Yes We Can from the Obama campaigns.
Ooh, okay.
Like that.
This was...
It's so weird.
This was
2013, 1 year into the second Obama administration. The meme was still known, but it had gone, out of style, pretty much. Not to say that it was, deemed bad or cringe, but nobody was using it anymore.
The art of such political advertising was still somewhat in the vogue, though I'll admit, part of me would not be surprised if this game was intended to be released earlier but got delayed, essentially, and that would explain why that stuff is there.
I mean, considering
they just didn't feel the need to, they didn't feel the need to get rid of it or whatnot.
I don't know, maybe it was a case where, the concept, Regiment had the concept to this in mind for a while, but could only implement it in this, maybe. And he decided, well, whatever, it's not too much of a big deal, even if it's, years later anyway. And honestly, as far as political references go, it's tame enough for me to not give a shit.
So this is an interesting detail. Vendra admits that, even she might have done something similar to Ratchet, because as much as she and her brother want to go home, yes, they're somehow from the Nether realm, essentially. More on that later, but they apparently have liked our dimension so much that they decided to bring home to us, which I guess is kind of touching that they consider this their home.
Because they've been growing too much on this dimension, that's why they cannot go back, and thus they prefer to just bring them here, because, they just want to be with them. Also, I get it, it's been, a thing for a while, at least with the Future Saga, but I really think people should stop calling Ratchet a space rat, not so much as because it's to the meaning, but really because it doesn't really fit. Hell, the Space Pirates, Captain Slag and his Space Pirates, were more on point by calling the Lombax more like of a cat.
Like, I've noticed it's a thing a lot of times with platforming mascots, but Yeah, between the likes of Ratchet, Sonic, and Crash,
Okay, outside
essentially.
of the Secret Rings, how many times Sonic was actually called a rat?
Not specifically a rat, but Eggman has referred to him as a rodent,
Rodent,
even though
yeah.
hedgehogs technically are not
Wow,
rodents.
there's also Sonic in the Secret Rings.
That's what I thought.
Well, he said aside from that.
Yeah, I thought I had mentioned it.
Yeah, Eraser does go out of his way to call Sonic a rat there, but Eggman calls him stuff like a rodent.
Anyway, because I guess Clank can just do that. Because those sentries insta-kill you on sight and there's no way to deactivate them, even though I think we should just blast them, but, you know, arbitrary, super immune sentries, sentry guns, sure. We need to scout ahead and plan, you know, a way to get in.
Don't worry, Tio. Secret Agent Clank's on the job.
I mean, I like that when they bother to reference that.
That being said, that does make me wonder, though. What has become of Clank's Secret Agent, well, star career,
I think he just retired as an actor. He probably lives, you know, out of retirement pension and all.
Slingshot targets activated.
They've talked about having to make ends meet, but like, if he's off his retirement pension, unless they really burn through that money, they should honestly be set for life.
Well, they are. It's just that, like he said, the whole retirement thing from adventuring that Ratchet was so hammering into our skulls in the comic, and, you know, for one, you know, everyone has realized that it is just stupid, you know, and they decided to, you know, continue have their stuff just for the thrill of it, or just because it's the right thing to do.
I bring it up mainly because I could swear I recall at least a few times where they've talked about having money problems when they really shouldn't, but maybe I'm misremembering. Like I've said, I don't come back to the Future series as much, and okay, I will say this. We are so far up to what I'm going to call the penultimate phase of the game so far. Like, yeah, technically the 2016 reimagining came, but, you know, in terms of like the actual chronology and whatnot, we're at the penultimate game, and again, I'll say this, I'm pleasantly surprised to see that the series for the most part kept its quality, but I will say this, that my favorite back then was Up Your Arsenal, and that still is the case, just because none of the Future series has really managed to usurp Up Your Arsenal, I'd say, in terms of having just that right balance of Ratchet and Clank gameplay, while also being pretty superb. Now, don't get me wrong, Crack in Time came close, but I do feel like part of my issue with Crack in Time is like, I get the narrative purposes why Ratchet and Clank spend so much time apart, but I kind of would rather we didn't, essentially, especially given how it's caused by, well, that just weird ending of Tools of Destruction, which we've already mentioned wasn't exactly the best way to end a tale and whatnot. Although I guess to be fair, Quest for Booty's problem wasn't the fact that it was just Ratchet, but again, I digress. I just feel like nothing of the Future series quite reaches the heights of Up Your Arsenal, but it still is, like I've said, nothing terrible, thankfully.
Let's see. According to the city planner's office, that main pump...
Now, mind you, some fans might consider some of these games not as great for varying reasons, but like I mentioned, a lot of series would kill to have, quote-unquote, the worst games be like the worst games of Ratchet and Clank.
Alright, in order to actually get to the other side of the turrets, you know, and get to the Prog twins, we have to, you guessed it, have to go through the sewer system. Lovely.
Beautiful. Hey Clank, why didn't we just fly our plane through? Like, it's technically all airborne when you think about it.
Well, first of all, the area is heavily patrolled by
stealth.
First of all, the area is heavily patrolled by the Tax for Less, so we had to basically land to a spot before in order to approach on foot for the last location, you know. And second, if you're referring to the jetpack, oh shit, speaking of callbacks to the first game, if you were referring for the jetpack instead, as I mentioned, it is tied to contained areas and as a fuel meter, so we cannot just fly willy-nilly. it's also worth noting that you can potentially reach this location before you win the jetpack, so, you know, you still are on your own. There you go.
I love how bombastic the music got for that sequence.
That's in order to just signify that the set piece is over. You might have noticed that it has happened a couple of times already.
Which, hey, you know what? Kudos to them. Like,
I think I did more than using a Sonic Raptor, thank you.
I hear that's a gift from her monster friend.
Okay then, I guess it's my time to actually start killing them. Go on.
You're like me. You're like me in the Arkham games. I like to listen to the villain banter every now and then.
I mean, good time and effort went into the voice acting for those dialogues, might as well.
You know what I do dig? Transformers War for Cybertron actually puts in special dialogue for if you interrupt a character at a certain part of a sentence in some cases.
Well, remember, Elzra's Wrath also did this for a couple of its boss fights, so...
Although Azura's Wrath is kind of a bit more cinematic during those cutscenes. I mean, like, you know, kind of like, like Arkham or War for Cybertron or this game where technically it's not a cutscene, but stuff going on in the main field of gameplay.
You might also have noticed that Ratchet doesn't have his overboots yet. That's something that will be addressed in the next part, believe it or not.
You lost them?
You might be on point with, but it's slightly more complex than that.
He lost them while saving the world or something.
I mean, that's a bit of a generic statement, but again, you'll be able to see in the next part.
Well, I mean, nothing else I can think of would really fit. Like, I can't exactly say, oh, Ratchet lost his boots killing everybody.
Again, I'll give the game credit that even though none of these soundtracks or anything I'd really download, they at least do their job well and sounding like good set dressing, essentially.
I forgot if we mentioned the composer. Who is it with this time around?
For this game?
Yeah.
It's still Michael Bross.
Okay. They will have a change, at least with Rift Apart, there will be a change by having Mark Mothersbaugh instead. I don't remember who did it for the reimagining.
Still Michael Bross.
Okay.
Huh.
So they were trying to have some sort of, recurring composer, after, the original actually left.
All the bolts, they will lead you.
At least they painted the ledge yellow. I appreciate that. This is a platform that remembers that if you want to guide the player, you might as well use collectibles rather than, making the environment, standing out too much. Basically, it had been a while since I actually played the game, so I forgot that I wasn't supposed to raise the platform just yet. I was supposed to get the battery first, meaning that that gong needs to be actually turned in its original position.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, I think this particular gadget is the only major one that you get in the game, outside of the staple ones that have been recurring, like the hook shot, or the other boots, the jetpack is technically, new when you get down to it, but it's more of a technicality than anything.
it's interesting. Like, this game definitely feels more fleshed out than the previous 2 games, essentially, but in some ways it does feel like they still had to skim stuff off, essentially.
Mostly because, again, it is still a budgeted title at the end of the day. So... And I would rather have that than, you know, something like with the Quake Hammer from All for One, where it's something that is used just one time and nothing more than that.
Yeah, the Quake Hammer, which can't even be used as a weapon, that still sends me.
For example, not even this can be used as a weapon, even if it looks like you're shooting an actual projectile that passes through, you know, cover. Similar to the Auger in Resistance.
Fair point. The difference being that at least this one seems to be getting more use overall than the Quake Hammer did.
Mm-hmm.
Which, yeah, I think the Quake Hammer was literally good for 1 or 2 areas.
For progression purpose, just
it.
1 level. For getting extra balls, only 1 level afterward. That's it. Alright, time to go up again. Who the fuck designed the sewer system?
Okay, Bill, so what we need to do is make the sewer system in a way that you can only progress by nearly drowning yourself. It'll help keep our employees motivated.
I got an even better idea. Why don't we just make these weird loop-de-loop things where people can only go back and forth from room to room with gravity boots, otherwise they just have to cling to the sides and climb up.
Bill, I like the way you think. It'll test their endurance, put them in nice fit shape, and also increase their survival skills.
I mean, I can...
2 years later after the construction, why has our construction company got a court summons for manslaughter?
I mean, I can't believe...
Put their name on the manifest.
I mean, I can't believe that the gravity boots will be a recurring tool for workers, so, you know, environments would be designed to accommodate that.
Yeah, I can honestly buy that. Like, if I recall correctly, in the first game, the gravity boots were basically something you bought anyway.
Well, yes, it was one... Okay, I don't remember... Yeah, almost every single gadget in the first game was something that you had to buy with bolts, but yeah. Alright, time to finally have to deal with another staple for the Tux for Less, their mini airships.
Hey, why don't you attack us with your giant mechas?
They don't have those anymore. I guess, you know, they were too expensive to mass produce. Not to mention, I do wonder if Gadgetron went out of business again, because the Grumble Nets are having the monopoly of, you know, selling stuff in the galaxy for now. So, I mean, Megacorp has to still be a thing, because Quizwijet was still alive and, you know, probably the president by the time of the end of the second game.
Unless his company also went under afterwards for some reason.
I mean, the Protopet was kind of a bit of a problem, but from what I understand, after the thing that Angela did at the end of the second game, it was still a commercial success because it was sold for its intended purpose of mass-produced, you know, pets.
Again, like I've said, after 3, the Ratchet series has an issue with which characters they actually want to remember and whatnot.
Right, I guess it's a good time for me to mention, since I only sporadically talked about them in one of the previous parts, because I got to know those only recently, relatively. There were released, well, okay, not released, but they were in production at the very least, 2 specific Java games tied to Ratchet Clank, which function as 2D side-scrollers with still a shooting component. But only one of them was released. I forgot which specific title it had. But only one, while the other was far into production but was little cancelled. Only recently it was actually managed to be discovered. That one, if I recall correctly, it's called Clone Home. Neither of them are particularly interesting. One of them is about Ratchet and Clank ending up in the TV, if I recall correctly, and having to prevent Maximilian, you know, the douchebag rich millionaire villain from the Secret Agent Clank series, to escape from the TV world and become real. So I guess we finally deal with him in a game on that front. But instead, Clone Home is apparently set right in the middle of Deadlock because Gleeman Vox is the main bad guy and is forcing Ratchet to literally clean up his mess of a computer from the inside. That's it. Sony was actually trying to produce a couple of Java games around the time, so I'm not too surprised. The only one that I know for a fact is the God of War spin-off, Betrayal, which is not too bad. I don't remember if it's still considered canon or not, but it is perfectly serviceable for what wants to do. And again, I want to also emphasize, because I actually bothered to place a lot of these, particularly the Ubisoft ones, that honestly, a lot of the Java games were not even particularly that bad. They only had the problem that they had to be built for it. So for example, something like, say, I don't know, a port of Sonic 1 ran like absolute garbage, possibly worse than Sonic Advance. Sorry, yeah, the Sonic for the Sonic 1 for the GBA.
Sonic Genesis.
Sonic Genesis, thank you. But I will need to actually see them in comparison to see actually which actually runs worse than the others. But my point is, a lot of them, particularly one made by Ubisoft, like Splinter Cell, Prince of Persia games, they were also Rayman. They were not even particularly bad, to be honest. They just, needed a company that actually believed in the projects, and not really all of them did. A lot of them, they were just cheap, cash grabs. So that's why the idea never took off. Anyway, for this sequence, Clank is actually doing some lead hacking skills in order to deactivate the turrets, and you need to defend the area. Thankfully, this is not an escort mission, believe it or not. So thankfully, Clank is not in any danger, and it gives me a chance to showcase to you the morphing weapon. Not about animals in this case, but it turns into snowman while Jingle Bells is being played. So
it was imperative that the weapon played Christmas music, but thank you, Mariah Carey.
God, I guess okay. At the very least, I haven't failed Wamageddon just yet, at least with this, but still.
But yes, this is perfectly timed for a not quite, but soon to be Christmas time release.
For timing, this will probably be made public in the second half of November, so it is close enough.
Look, you know the rules. As soon as Halloween ends, despite the fact that Thanksgiving is a thing...
Alright, heroes I can mention. Now, Mr. Zirkle, starting with this game, which will become, a recurrent thing for both the reimagining and Rift Apart, gets to have a family on his own.
Aww.
Level 2 gives us Zircon Jr., voiced by Sam Riegel, believe it or not. Yes.
Blessed be.
And at level 3 we will have also Miss Zircon, his wife, joining the fray, which is also the other character voiced by Ali Hills.
Beautiful.
So that's basically an excuse to have more attack drones attacking at the same time in order to, augment your firepower. Honestly, it's a cute gimmick. It will also be expanded plot-wise in Rift Apart by having, Miss Zircon being the one that actually sells you, acts as a weapon seller. And if I recall correctly, Zircon himself is the bartender of a bar that we so.
How funny would it have been if we could just do like what the comic did and just hire an entire army of Zircons?
Unfortunately, that's not how it works because more gameplay balance.
Yeah, Sorry, only the bad guys can have the OP weapons.
Inside the system.
Access granted.
There appears to be a large power surge at this SkyTrain station. We can reach it through this aqueduct.
Oh great, we need to get back into the sewers.
Looks like we'll have to power up those water pumps.
Yay!
At least, I guess if for your joy lives, at least it's not a desert. So yeah, this is your first major area that counts as a free fly zone. Just step onto the helipad to charge your fuel, and then there you go, pressing Alt L2 to fly around. The metric weight, to quote Johnny from his DK64 review, the metric weighs a fucking ton, but you get used to it.
It weighs a metric ton.
Honestly, my favorite part in all of that was that partially, at least, he screwed himself over with the controls of Didi's jetpack for that game, and he realized that only in post.
So, do we still get plenty of funny Zircon dialogue, especially
Yes,
ones acknowledging
not just for him,
the whole family?
not just from him, but for the entire family as well.
Yeah.
As Miss Zircon says herself, the family that slays together stays together.
Also, wouldn't that be Mrs. Zircon, since, you know, I assume they're married?
I keep forgetting about the specific nomenclatures.
Fair enough.
Alright,
But you know what? Good for Mr. Zircon.
He finally decided to put up a family, but did not retire from business at the same time. Literally living the life.
No. Now, you see, he got them all in on the family business now. Anyway, turret section.
Yeah, well, just for this section, in order to get into the sewers again, we need to reactivate 3 pumps. We already did for one, there are two missing. Each of them is connected to one of the battery bots, so we need to first find the battery bots, then find the socket in which to plug it in, and then rotate the crank in order to extend the tube for the pump.
You know, I was joking about the Academy of Evil comparisons, but evil, nightlit sky, and us having to venture into the sewers, yeah, this is like the Academy of Evil.
Thankfully, we don't have potentially the glitch where we have to repeat the entire level over and over again.
Jesus Christ. What I wouldn't give for a remake of Twinsanity that, you know, gives that game all the content that it was missing, as well as just, you know, more polish.
Beta restored.
There you go, let's extend the pipe number 2 across the pixelated sludge. Yeah, the gadget also of the jetpack also allows you to perform aerial combat, you know, in a similar way to what you would have done for with the ship.
Very nice.
Again, at the very least, we're trying some new ideas, even if we're sacrificing others like the gadgets. But I'm fine with that. Again, like you might have noticed that. God, how long has it been since we had a hacking minigame in this franchise?
Yeah.
But then again, I guess it would be probably better than to have something that is, you know, too much of a hassle, I guess.
I think, like many things, it all comes down to how well they can craft it and, you know, keep it fun, basically.
Mm-hmm. A thing that I didn't mention is that you can use the turret, which, if you have had a good a good hearing, it produces the same sound effect that Sparks does while shooting in Spyro 3. You can shoot the detach-for-less boxes, which will give you a decent amount of bolts each, so the game is encouraging you to actually, you know, destroy them.
I'm sorry, we seem to have stepped into a 2000 Star Wars game with that soundtrack for a bit there.
No, don't say that, or the bots will believe John Williams is just blinking a single note and copyright claim.
Goodness gracious.
That's the thing that we have to deal if we ever get to record the Star Wars games. That the score is a nightmare. That's why you don't see a lot of reviews of or many walkthroughs that don't bother to be heavily edited.
We'll have to restore power to the store. Keep your eyes peeled for a fuse box.
Those power cables lead deeper into the tunnel.
All right, let's follow them.
Alright, as per the golden rule, when you're in trouble, follow the wire. One end, leads nowhere because the door is closed, so let's go through the other.
It's a literal giant braided cord.
At the very least, we're not pretending that it's razor sharp like in Frozen 2010.
That smells.
Gee, Ratchet, it's almost like you're in a sewer or something.
Nah. I'm sure the sewers smell lovely.
Well, that's the thing, Waves. I was replaying it recently, so I got a confirmation of that. The ones in Universe, the one in Hollow Knight, actually do not smell bad, because the way the game is actually structured, by the time you get to the sewers, the post-apocalyptic crisis that has plagued the setting has gone for so long that nobody had used the sewers, and because there being constant raining in the area, the water has flushed away every single part of dirt that there was inside. So there is a specific area still littered with excrement, but it's because the game is bug themed. So it has the boss of a dung beetle, so they needed an area about that. But other than that, pretty much the entire rest of the sewers is commented to be actually smelling nice.
Lovely.
There you go. If you destroy those boxes, you will actually unlock another golden bolt, if I recall correctly, because it was hidden inside them. There it is. Collecting all of them is a bit of a throwback to the first game, because instead of unlocking new costumes or like skill points or anything, you can unlock powered up golden versions of the weapons that you do have in challenge mode, so not really worth that much showing.
So, guess now's a good time for me to bring up. So you know how we've been talking about Kronk and Zephyr's death, and how I initially thought that, hey, the better idea would be to, sure, kill them, but at least, bring them back at the end? Well, apparently, TJ Fixman agrees with me. Yeah, I recently found a Twitter post of his. Apparently, he expresses his discontent with the death scene, and he honestly thinks that it was a disservice to the characters, essentially. Apparently, his original idea would have been that their parts, would have been scattered, and Ratchet would have had to collect them over time to reassemble them, essentially. But nope, they were killed off for real.
So we can chalk that up to executive meddling, as per tradition.
Sounds like it. Jeez. Again,
it's also the fact that it doesn't really... the thing that sounded weird to me is that this wasn't really the style that the TJ Fixman had been using up until this point. So it really stuck out like a sore thumb. Anyway, you know the drill. You activate the crank in a sewer, you have to run because the water is rising.
Ratchet. Yep,
oh, fuck me. Also, the propellers are activating now.
Activate fans.
Thankfully, I restocked my fuel before actually having to go, otherwise it would be very bad.
The point is yeah, there you go, confirmation that it was an executive mandate. Now, this post was made in 2021, so this was probably when the arbitrary statute of limitations for whatever NDA he had signed probably came off, essentially.
He had quit being the writer, after the reimagining, so I can imagine whatever NDA he was under kind of capitulated not too long afterward.
It's like sometimes NDAs last even after you quit, essentially, and a company will be out for your blood. I do wonder if it was also a case at that point where, because maybe some studio execs had changed hands or whatnot, or
possible.
it was a point where, and maybe it was a point where Sony were like, okay, we're fine with being called out now about that. Like, sometimes NDAs can really just amount to when a company is okay to admit that they may have screwed up, essentially. Which can, of course, take years, but, you do what you do, essentially.
At the very least, the good news is that we're out of the sewers for now. So, if I recall correctly, we don't have to go back.
Oh, good. You found me. Well, now that you know where I am.
You also might have noticed that the mechanical contraption that comes out of a nightmare box can be slightly different. It's either the Grim Reaper, a monster clown, a generic demon, or something else entirely.
I know it's played for last, but some of those power-ups can be legit terrifying to somebody with those phobias, essentially.
Mm-hmm. It even has a small music accompanying them, you notice.
This game, for the most part, does not play around, essentially. For better or for worse.
It wants to actually have, not, like I said in the first part, I still argue that it's not really as, even if it wants to be, it's not really that darker compared to Crack in Time, to be honest. But it tries to be on par in order to try to have a very serious story, Sure, it lacks a bit some of the emotional beats that Ratchet had in that game by, virtue of not having a character like Azimuth, that Ratchet can bounce to, but I argue there still is, a sense of, dread going on in the fact that this particular threat is less played for that because, Nefarious, despite being, a serious threat, was also a bumbling idiot a lot of the times. It just had that kind of balance. While the Prog twins don't like to make jokes, if you noticed.
Again, shows that they're serious and for reals, yo. Although, again, I have to mention that Kronk and Zephyr's death kind of, again, bucks with continuity, because we've seen a certain robot character be caught in an explosion but come back just fine. Nefarious, essentially.
Also, currently here, so.
That's true, yeah, like, we literally tore her limb from limb, basically, in Ratchet 3, and yet she's back and none the worse we're aware. Like, how messed up is it that a character that they refused to bring back arguably got more justice done than two... Okay, I don't know if I should call them mainstays, but I guess you could argue by this time Kronk and Zephyr were pretty much that.
They've been a staple since Tools of Destruction. They only really skipped one game. That would be...
Quest for Booty.
Okay, true, I've been two then, because the other is Full Frontal Assault and Q Force. Because they were also in the credits of A Crack in Time.
God, I could have sworn that they cameoed in Full Frontal Assault, but I think you're right, they didn't show up in that game. Man, Full Frontal Assault was... massively small. Yes, a game.
Sure, it doesn't matter about the size, it's a matter about how you use it.
Of course. But, Tio, I was told Ratchet and Clank size matters.
Also Godzilla, I think.
Man, what a history this series has had. Again, it's been a fun ride, I will say here. I will say this. Time heals most wounds, essentially. Like, I might be a bit more strict with some of these games if, like, we were experiencing them in the real time we had to wait and whatnot, but like with many things, when you can actually play the games all together, you tend to be able to view them through a bit of a lens. Also helps that you don't have to pay full price, typically.
Yeah.
At least that's the idea. You shouldn't have to pay full price years after a game's been released.
This is one of my main arguments on why I try, unless there are specific, the big realization that you do get eventually, because I'm pretty sure everyone, get this, is that a lot of the, quality of a product these days tends to be judged only in the present mostly, but not necessarily because of the actual objective quality of a product that it has in that specific moment, but because it is to determine if it's monetarily successful enough to, be worth something or to continue, its legacy in some kind of way. So it's yet another instance of art being dictated by capital rather than, by itself. So if anything, again, having to wait enough time for things to, either pass out or, in the case of actually purchasing a product for a sale, actually allows to actually properly see the game, in a more less rush kind of, way.
Good work, pal. Now let's go get Vendra and Neftin.
We're about to get a boss fight against one of the twins. And for some reason, they reactivated the trains in the area just to have an excuse for you to fight in the middle of the crossroad.
Cute. Mwahahaha!
Static electricity in the air as a result of constant transdimensional experimentation. See, without a true Dimensionator, you can't just punch a hole in the walls of reality. The trick is to wear them thin.
Look what you've done to the sector. How many lives are you gonna let Vendra ruin just to open a few portals?
She's strong-headed, I'll give you that. Hard to blame her, though. Can you imagine seeing your kind right there? Close enough to touch.
Yeah, the twins are definitely a parallel to Ratchet and his quest to find the Lombaxes.
Yes, I can. But wanting something too badly can change.
And that's a callback instead to our removal.
It doesn't matter. I'm her guardian, and since you want to hurt her, I suppose I'm just going to have to...
So, what's the deal with Neftin? He dual wields fucking whip maces.
Why do I get the feeling somebody was thinking Kratos with this?
Well, no, if you recall, it's a weapon that is slightly similar to the ones that you had in Deadlock, just that in this case he dual wields them.
You're gonna pay for what you did to my friends.
They were in our way.
Anyway,
that being said, yes.
As far as the boss fight goes, it's relatively simple. Keep pummeling, and the attacks are a bit hard to avoid if you noticed. Then occasionally it will retreat and sends a bunch of attacks from less alongside, the Train of Doom to fight you. So watch out.
Oh my god, I just realized this is inspired by both of Joker's boss fights between Arkham Asylum and Arkham City.
I mean, I
Circular
guess,
Arena, he occasionally goes out and lets his bugs come in, and just like in Arkham City, the mooks come in on trains, too.
Well, in this case, it's an actual literal train, while in that game, it's, a set of cable
roller
cars.
coasters.
Yeah, roller coaster cars. Because he reconverted, I forgot which sector he used, the industrial one.
The steel mill.
Yeah, the steel mill.
I mean, if anyone's gonna turn a mill into a roller coaster ride, it would probably be Joker.
Definitely. I mean, cause that's also the weird thing. Almost every single criminal that had a territory. Okay, no, Two-Face did not do that, but most
well,
of them,
okay, to be fair, Two-Face took over the courthouse, so, the legal gimmick and all that.
My point is that almost every single criminal that had a territory tried to reconvert it in some fashion, like the Penguin with the museum. So
Yeah.
Or the more Mr. Freeze with a police station.
Gotta stay on brand, especially when you're a villain in Gotham City.
There you go. Done. Again, if you want to have a rematch, there is a robotic version clone of this boss fight in the Destructapalooza.
Cute.
Oh, of course.
Sure.
So much for fighting
Now
with
you draw your
honor.
monsters.
20 years we've waited to be reunited with the Nethers. I expected this from the Polaris Defense Force, not from you. You should understand.
If you let that monster cross
Lady,
over,
you
everyone in
killed
this
2 of their
galaxy will be in
friends. Even if he saw eye to eye with you, you kind of blew up the chance of him wanting to work with you.
Dimensionator! Find the Nethers!
Never what?
I cannot even make a these nuts jokes. And there's Mr. I, the King Robo Cthulhu and all. And these prompts attack for S to actually tuck tail. You'll still get to see them, so they're not gone from the game, but for the most part now you will have to fight the Nethers. And
What?
wow!
You mean to tell me he betrayed her?
No!
But you're supposed to be my friend!
And
Please
she's
don't.
dead.
Well, thrown into the Never dimension almost.
I believe we should run now.
Yeah, I would Clank on this one.
So, cheated out of a boss fight with Vendra, or we fight her later, maybe?
Cheated, unfortunately. One of the bigger disappointments of the game is you do never get to fight Vendra. The closest that you got to be in contact with her was that thing at the beginning where you reactivate the polarization field.
Hey, but at least you can fight her in the mobile game.
Actually, not even that. Remember,
What?
The Prog twins kidnapping the Terranoids are just there for, the premise. Other than that, it's your standard Sonic Dash clone, or Temple Run. There you go,
Also,
just Mr. Zircon. In the meantime, I managed to upgrade Mr. Zircon to level 3.
When the twins came into our
Big one.
Oh, here's Pollyx.
enough that their bodies could adapt. These Nethers need protective gear to survive. Without it, they're in grave danger.
Hey, it's kind of like with
Oh,
the
no.
it's kind of like with the Chimera in Resistance. But in this case, you don't have location-based damage. Just shoot them
I
until
wouldn't
they
be
die.
surprised. I wouldn't be surprised if that's a reference. So from what I can understand, the twins essentially are Nevers, but because they grew up in our realm, basically they adapted to it better.
Yeah, because since they started when they were very young,
Neat.
The weird thing, if
Whereas
you may
these-
notice, is that I can still use the morphing weapon on the Nethers. So imagine, it's not even a case of being technically organic, but a being of negative energy, turning into a snowman. Wrap your head around that.
Kudos to the company that managed to manufacture such a, well, there's no other way to put it, god-tier device.
Again,
Am I-
mostly
am
the
I-
Brahmos, but Jesus, the implication. Oh, of course, I guess Ratchet is tired now.
So I guess now he's on our side.
Well, he will actually say that in a second.
I can't hold them off forever. Go! That teleporter will get you back to your ship.
Why are you doing this?
Because you're our best chance to save my
There you
sister.
go.
And she's your best chance to stop the Nethers. Go to Planet Thram.
That's right, we've got to work with the twins.
Or at least with Neftin.
Well, we have to work with Vendra too, since he just said she's the best chance at closing the portal.
Well, that's what we'll have to find out partially in the next part, because you know, things are a bit too chaotic right now. So Neptune has suggested to go to another planet in the sector, Tram, in order to, you know, rendezvous and, you know, plan something about it. So that's what we're gonna do in the next part. So see you for that.
See ya.